My name's Kenny Dyal, and welcome to Season 2 of the Scuba Diving Podcast. So you were on a dive with a bunch of instructors and seasoned divers.
Yeah.
It was a place called Hole in the Wall, off West Palm, Jupiter area, Southeast Florida. You were saying this was like 110 at the top, 130, 140 at the bottom.
It can get down into 140, 150 if you go too far off the ledge.
So a bunch of seasoned divers, you guys are all getting ready to jump off, and you said you had to jump in and go down really fast and negative.
Correct. So everybody had no air in your BCs. We were hitting the water, and because of the current. There's a ripping current because you got so far to go. You drop a long ways ahead, but if you drop too far ahead, you're going to end up using a whole lot of air before you get there. You drop too close and you don't get down quick enough, you're obviously going to miss the hole. It's a hard drop for the captain, but yeah, especially on that ripping current, and we had a ripping current that day.
Even regular advanced divers don't typically do this one. You got to be seasoned.
Yeah, especially not on a day like this.
Okay. But you guys did it, and you jumped in. What happened?
Yeah. So anyways, we're all in the back of the boat. There's a couple folks there who don't have the regulators in their mouth because they want to conserve air for the dive.
Right. You can get an extra breath, maybe even 2 extra breaths if you do that.
Exactly.
Just breathing off.
Yeah.
Of it.
But it's, I mean,
Game changer.
Game changer. But anyway, so they didn't do that. We hit the water, everybody puts their regs in their mouth, and everybody's breathing when we hit and start heading down. At first, when we hit the water, everything was fine. No issues. Everybody, I looked around, made sure everybody was breathing off the reg, everybody was good to go. Pretty much everybody started dropping almost immediately. You could see there was good clear water, so you could see the ledge almost immediately, even 100 feet down. And so we get probably about halfway down, and I'm looking up, and all of a sudden, I see this instructor. She's checking her gauge. She's having problems. I mean, just all the signs and symptoms you can see of someone, having those kind of issues. But she's still dropping fast. I realize there's an issue, so luckily, as I said, it was all advanced divers and dive masters, and I was able to hand the float ball off to another instructor that was in the group. And so I start swimming over to her, and as she's dropping, I'm realizing this is not just I'm having issues with my weights or whatever. This is a serious problem. I'm out of air because her reg's out of her mouth by this point.
And once again, this is an instructor, a seasoned instructor.
Yes, this is a seasoned instructor. I'm at about 100 feet at this point. Actually, when I handed off the float ball, I take that back. We were on the ledge, so it must have been about 110, 115. I start swimming over, she's dropping, and I see she's dropping off the ledge into the deeper area, right? I'm on nitrox. If it gets too deep over there, I'm gonna be going over my MOD. But anyway, so I head over there. I figure it's worth the risk because it'll just be slightly over my MOD. I go to get her. I get the regulator out of her mouth, put it in hers. Once we get kind of things sorted out.
You took your octo and put it in her mouth.
I put my octo,
Okay.
yeah, my octo. She saw my octo. This isn't always the case, but she was an instructor, seasoned enough, and she knew to take the octo. It was good, and I had it, like there. She was able to purge it immediately. Once we got everything under control, I put a lot of air in my BC to kind of help bring both of us up. Once she started getting under control, I went ahead and orally inflated her BC down there because I looked at her gauge. She had no air, so I went ahead and orally inflated her BC for her.
So normally in a rescue, we say use their BC if you can.
Correct.
But you couldn't, so you had to use yours.
Correct. I had to use mine
the
because
ascent.
there was, she had no way to inflate her BC. She was probably a little bit overweighted because of needing to get down fast.
Negative.
No gas in her line. I was completely empty. At that point, I didn't know what had happened, but I knew that the only way we were going to solve this was with my gas. So I went ahead and orally inflated her BC. We started going up to the surface. She was shooken, but we got up there, did a pre-dive briefing, and it became pretty clear pretty quickly what had happened.
Post-dive briefing.
Post-dive briefing, yes.
You said pre-dive.
Did I say?
Yeah.
All right, so anyway, let me do that again then. Get on the boat, do a post-dive briefing, and that's when we figured out what had happened.
All right, so the big question is, what little thing led to this big event where someone got over 100 feet, an instructor got over 100 feet down and couldn't breathe and couldn't go up?
And what are the possible solutions for it at that depth? What could she have done to help rescue herself?
Okay, let's talk about what caused this.
What caused this is very simple. She turned on her air. Everybody was checking their air. Turned on her air to check her gas, make sure everything was good when we're going through, pre-dive check. Had a full tank. Turned it back off and did not purge it. And when in the post-dive briefing, when I was asking her, why didn't you purge it? Well, I wanted to save that extra gas. Those 2 breaths in the line. Unfortunately, when she got back on the boat, or when she got on the back of the boat and you're going through all this stressful time getting ready, because especially even for a dive even for instructors, a dive like this is something that adds a little bit of stress because there's not a whole lot of room for error, as you can see with what happened with this. She looked at her gauge. Oh, it says 3,000. I've got my tank on. Puts it on. Gets on the back of the boat. Does not breathe off the regulator, so that tank's still saying 3,000. She hits the water. She doesn't worry about it anymore because her tank's on. Takes that first breath. She's heading down. Takes that second breath. She gets to about 30 feet and is like, ooh, that wasn't a full breath. What happened there? Can't stop her descent.
She's on such a rapid negative descent,
right?
That there's already that momentum.
Exactly. And so then she tries to take a third breath and there's nothing there. And so now she's got a real big problem because she's probably 40, 50 feet and dropping at this point.
Fast.
Yeah, fast. She was overweighted at the time. She put extra weight in there to make sure she could get down. But anyway, so yeah, that was the cause of this. It was, number one, she didn't purge the line after she turned her air on. If she had done that, that would have solved it. Number two, if she had actually not just looked at her pressure gauge, but actually checked and turned the knob, she would have went, oh wait, that's not on. That would have solved it. Number three, if she'd put the regulator in her mouth on the back of the boat, she would have figured it out real quick and could have had somebody turn it on.
Now we know when you breathe in on that regulator and you go, if you got a gauge, that needle will drop.
Yes.
A lot of times it'll go almost
1,000
halfway
PSI,
down.
yeah.
Or a third of the way down. 2-3 breaths usually is
Right.
about all.
You will see the needle move
Right.
if your air's not turned on.
Yeah. Even
and for all the people, we were using nitrox. It wasn't air, so I'll say gas.
Yeah, whatever. So even on a digital one, there may be like a 1 second delay. I still do it even though I have a wireless digital readout. I'll take a breath or two. If it's saying 3,021, after a second it'll go like 2,021 or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, and honestly, I never really did that until after this. I'm not going to like throw stones and be like, oh, how could she do this thing? I learned it from watching the situation. And since that day, every single time I put that regulator in my mouth, I look at that gauge and take 2 or 3 breaths. And if that needle doesn't move, I know I'm good. If that needle moves a little bit, ooh, wait, let me turn that in. Now, I usually remember to purge my reg anyways, but that's the fail-safe. Even if you don't, that's the fail-safe.
I, in a cavern, had mine start going hard to breathe every time, and I saw the needle bounce, and I realized that was from just barely cracking.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite give you, the deeper you go, the harder it is to get all that air out, that little barely cracked thing. So I do it too, because even on the surface, if you breathe really hard, you can kind of tell if it's barely cracked most of the time. So there's a lot of perks to that.
Well, I'm to the point where I almost look like I'm OCD, but I'm checking it.
If you find yourself in that situation, 40, 50, 60 feet, dropping like a rock in very deep water, high current, and you find yourself not getting any air, and your BC won't fill, what do you do?
The first thing I would do is drop my weights. That's the thing she didn't do.
It's so rare to do it. I feel like people almost forget about it.
Yeah, no, I have never seen anyone drop their weights in any of those scenarios, even though that's the most obvious thing. In that situation, that saves her life. If she drops those weights, she's now positive buoyant and she's getting to the surface.
Or you can at least kick a lot faster.
Right, or you can kick a lot faster. Yeah. Number two is this takes a little bit more understanding the scenario you're in. You clearly are not out of air. You checked, it was at 3,000. There's only one thing that could have happened, and that's your air's off. In order for nothing else to be working, the only thing that could have happened is that your air's off. Reach back and turn your air. And you don't even have to turn it all the way on to get started. If you can reach back and just crack it, you're gonna be okay. But the first thing you do is drop your weights. I talked to them and they're like, no, we didn't. I mean, they told us that's what we're supposed to do, but I don't even know how my weights work. Or if the rental gear, I don't know how my weights work.
And another thing, so dropping your weights, another one is being able to reach out and turn on your air. And a lot of people don't ever practice this stuff.
Right.
And you can lift your tank up if it's hard to reach. We've all been in a thick wetsuit or whatever, it's hard to reach.
Unbuckle your left. All you gotta do is unbuckle your left BC strap, pull it around and turn it on. And once you've got air, that gets you 90% of the way there.
Well,
maybe
at that
95%
point, you probably
of the way.
recover the dive because you just started.
Right,
As long as you still got your wits.
Yeah.
But everybody should be comfortable having access to their tank valve, cylinder valve, or bottle valve for the commercial folk.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're saying like pull one of those.
There's almost every BC. There's a clip here. Undo that clip. Your BC just slips right around and you can easily get that. I got shoulder problems. I can't actually reach my tank valve like this just because my shoulders, I can't get back there.
Yeah.
And so that's how I do it. If I need to turn my air on or I need to, I unclip it, pull it around and turn it on.
So solution to this is practice dropping your weights.
Practice dropping your weight.
And know that you have access to your valve. You
Correct.
can reach around and access that valve, turn it on, untangle, whatever.
Right.
And those two things would have easily prevented this problem. Probably would have been able to continue diving.
Yeah. Well, dropping the weights wouldn't, but that's okay. I mean, that's a hell of a lot better than dying. And honestly, if I had not gone over there, she clearly was not going to drop her weights, and she hadn't thought about this. And that's what panic does. I mean, once you start panicking, you forget everything. And all you think of is, I gotta get up. And once you do that, you've lost. You've lost the game. You better have someone there to help you.
Well, hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for listening and tuning in to the Scuba Diving Podcast. None of this is possible without you being here. This show relies 100% on divers and the aquatically interested people just like you. Even something so simple as just hitting that 5-star review or subscribe, that does wonders. There's lots of ways to help, contribute, donate. Everything is appreciated. And of course, check out our other series like the Down to 60 1-minute to the point dive site reviews. We're on pretty much every platform, Instagram, TikTok. Look for Sweetwater Scuba Diving Channel, Scuba Diving Podcast. Links are definitely somewhere on your device. If you're on Spotify or YouTube, you can watch this in video form. Don't forget, if you know somebody that you think would add to this show and would make a great guest, then of course, dive at Sweetwater Scuba, or keep it simple, sweetwaterscuba@gmail.com, or just go on the website or direct message me on whatever platform you're on right now. Let's show the rest of the world, and hope to see you underwater soon.